Howdy, homies. James here with Rewind Electric again. And this evening, I'm going to crack these two guys open and have a quick look at the insides, see if we can confirm the chip in that one and in that one, and if we can get some a date on this one, maybe from the pots. This one has a 1983 serial number, but we'll try to confirm that also. So without any further delay, or perhaps with two fine examples of delay, let's proceed. All right, take the battery out first. That needs a new rubber doodad. That is a technical industry term. And I doubt I will be able to find the ones I have, so I'll probably just be buying another one. There's the serial number, 358800 on a paper tag with a stamp, which means something. As opposed to I guess it's an ink stamp right on the case, if I remember right. That's only in the 1970s pedals, I think. I feel like I should have some sweet background music playing. I do not. If you're looking at the colorator, that's because my 2-year-old likes to name the pedals. This one has a name too. It's a Dub Jub, which, I mean, is that not the most awesome name for a delay? Dub Jub. You know, he names the cars and the trains, they have names, and the robots. So, you know, why shouldn't the pedals? I totally see his point on that. Okay. I think that's just a serial number for the PCB, but that is there if anybody cares. Okay. And here's where I break something on camera. Hopefully not. Okay. So this does have the 45580X JRC chip with 3669 on it. I don't know what significance that may have. And then it's got an MN 3205, an MM 3102, and this here NE57ON 8318. There's a couple trim pots in here. We can see this one's labeled VR1 bias. VR is usually a variable resistor. I'm not sure. This one's VR2 cancel. Is that right? I think it is. And this is VR3 lock. I don't really know what those do. I mean, I know what the bias would be. It's probably for one of these transistors or the ICs. But yeah, it's really hard for me to not play with them because that's just the kind of guy I am. There's a trim pot. I want to mess with it. So maybe I will do that later. Probably do a little bit of looking up online first to make sure. I mean, you know, don't mess with it. You could break it. Not if you take note of where it is and you put it back and you have an oscilloscope to fix it if you need to. But yeah. Anyway, I'm looking at the pots now. I've moved on from that thought. Thanks for coming along on my mental ride here. The pots are, this one says M50K ohms B. So linear. Usually B is linear. And 38C. This one says M50K ohms, B 38C. And this last one says nothing at all from what I can tell. I'm going to grab a inspection mirror that I got from my dentist, Dr. Baker, best dentist I've ever had. Let's see. There's really not a lot of light to be doing this on the camera, but there's enough that I can see that there's nothing to see. Doesn't seem that there's any printing on there. Oh, yes. There it is. There it is. Oh, boy. It's only in the very hardest to read spot that they put it. Oh, come on. Yeah. Huh. I don't think we're going to get to read that one. Okay, but here, let's just have a nice in focus view, perhaps. Can we get some focus? Can I get a little focus? Okay, let's try like this. There, that seems good. Okay. Just for having a nice look at that. All right. That's really all I was after. So let's put this guy back together. Colorator, should say his name. Let's put Colorator back together. By the way, worth noting that I did a little casual comparison of these two. Actually, let me backpedal a little bit. The reason I have these is because they're awesome. But the other reason I have them out right now is because I'm going to do a little bit of a analog delay comparison. We'll call it a shootout for the thumbnail. And in that, I'm going to include these two, as well as a blue script logo DoD 680. It's the big AC powered light blue delay from the 70s. And an MXR green, what is it? A M118? I think 117 is the flanger. It's the big green AC powered MXR delay from the 70s. And I have a Maxon. Let's see. So I'm not too familiar with the Maxons. It is an AD900. And it is said to be from the 1980s, but that may not be the case because I don't believe they made those in the 1980s. So that might actually be, and it's not a reissue because those look different. It might be like a late 90s or 2000s thing. I'm not sure. I don't have it here yet, so we'll find out. And then, yes, there was another one. Oh, yeah. It's the earliest one of all, and maybe the coolest. It's a blue printed 1970s. I want to say it's like 72, but I feel like that might be too early. Anyway, it's an early blue screen printed Electro-Harmonix Deluxe Memory Man. Which should be pretty cool. And I'm trying to get a Ross R80. However, there's really only 2 for sale right now, and one is absurd and one is really absurd in the price. And slightly less unreasonable seller ignored my fair offer. Didn't even get a response verbally, so I don't know what the... He doesn't want to sell it. I mean, I see his point. It's the cheapest one that can be had right now in good condition. You know, at least for an early one. Okay, so we're inside Dub Jub here. And I see an NEC Japan chip, a JRC 4558D. Yep. And then there's the MN3205 here. And an MN3102 here. So seeing a pretty familiar complement of ICs. I didn't look on the other one for a printed date on the PCB. We can go back and review the video. Maybe one of you guys saw it if there was one. I don't see one here. This PCB is labeled Maxon MPAD1401A. Could be entirely insignificant. I'm not super familiar with these, so yep. Maybe that's meaningful, maybe it's not. There's not anything of note on the backside. Look at these little resistors. These are like 16th watt, perhaps 8th watt. Those are tiny. Let's see if there's a date on these electrolytics. Does not appear that there is. About these other ones, well, there is a H8208, so it could be 82. Could be 1982. Let's see what else we have on these other models here. H8146, okay. Kind of feeling good about that 8182. Those numbers I'm seeing there. Let's see if we can find a number on another one or two. Hopefully of a different size. There's some Nichicons here. The 1UFs. Yeah, I see a lot of 85s, but that's a temperature rating in Celsius. I know what that is. Okay, I see a 80. Oh, that's 85 degrees also. Okay, well, it is tiny little printing on these. All right. These ICs should have dates on them too. I mean, these codes should contain date information in one way or another. I'm not familiar with it, but let's see. Nothing jumps out at me there as being a obvious date. I know for sure that JRC is a date. The 216 is, or 2116, that is a date code on that. I'm almost positive, but I don't recall how those work. I'll have to look that up. Okay, pots. Yes, there is some printing, and I'm going to need the mirror to see it. I think it is possible to see it, at least, unlike the other one, though. Oh, boy. I'm gonna bring a light in here. This is all hard to do on camera, believe me. Okay. I'm gonna get down here and do it. But I think you can still see it as long as it's in focus. Oh boy. Oh, it's so dusty. I've got to wipe it clean. Can't see it. I mean, I can see it, but I can't read it because it's too dusty. Okay, let's try again. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's printed upside down also. M2O K. Okay, so oh, come on, only the numbers that are important are being difficult. Yeah, M20K ohms, B53. Well, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? I'm not going to be able to read that one because it's too much in the corner. Let's see about this. All I got's the M here, and it looks like a 1, perhaps 1K. I can't see it. I'm going to take it out real quick. That pot, I mean. Let's see. Maybe I can just take this pot out. So these are cool. Rocket sockets. But where's the rest of them? Like there's a set of like 10 various imperial and metric sized sockets, which is cool, but I want all of them. Like I don't just want a selection of 10 that they think are the popular ones. I want them all. And I want them in different colors so I can look in the drawer and go, oh yes, green, 13 millimeters, and grab it. Or, you know, 1/2 inch red, perfect. Okay. That was easier, right? Is that in focus? Let's do a lot of focusing here. There we go. So we got M, 10 kilo ohms, C, 23C. Okay. I like how some owner decided to scratch in his favorite settings. I mean, they are pretty good settings. I tried it out. But, yeah, I mean, you know, Sharpie would have worked. Piece of tape, but, you know, wax pencil. Lots of options that didn't involve scraping the paint off. But, you know, who knows when that was done and if this thing was ever worth anything at that point. Or thought it would be, at least. Okay. Putting them back together. All right. Well, so while I'm putting this back together, I'll share my brief experience of the differences between this and the Boss DM-2. And that is that this Ibanez AD9, that is AD9, not AT9, is it's more congested sounding. It's not as clear. Neither the dry signal nor the echoes are as defined and cutting, which is pretty interesting because the echoes on the Boss themselves, by comparison to the clean, sound a little bit grungier. Like they have more of that analog, grimy kind of thing happening. That, what you'd call it, you know, the artifacts of being a vintage analog delay. There's more of that on the echoes of the Boss. They sound more distinctly disintegrated and different from the dry signal. However, the echoes themselves, as well as the clean or dry on the Boss, they actually are more defined and cut through the sound better. Whereas this one, it gets a little bit more like sloshy and whooshy and compressed. And why isn't that threading in? Is it the wrong screw? So that's an interesting thing. Now, one thing that the Ibanez had going for it is that it gets a little bit more wild and crazy in general. So if you want to do the tripped out oscillating feedback, this one has a little bit more character when you do that, where the Boss sounds a little bit more healthy and okay. This one kind of like falls apart more, gets a little bit wilder. I think that socket was a bit stripped out, so we're good now though. And one other thing that I noticed that was different between the two is that Dub Jub, the Ibanez AD9 here, it had a very narrow window between a lot of repeats that faded away and infinite repeats that just went into oscillation and were not musical. Maybe not musical is a bad way to put it. I mean, they were more of a special effect than a typical delay. So if that makes sense, like, you know, you could have a long set of delays going, and then it was a hair further, and it was just infinite repeat, like crazy tripped out stuff. And a hair back was just a couple delays, you know, maybe like 3 or 4. Dot, 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 dot. Instead of it like dot, 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 dot. Minus the speed difference that I imported there. So, you know, you have your like beep, 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 and then this weird pause, and then beep, 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 and then that weird pause. Whereas you might want like beep, 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 like a soft fade out. But if you go a hair further, it would just be like, you know? You like that? All the glubitus? Okay. That's enough insanity for the evening. So, Boss DM-2, Ibanez AD9, 2 analog delays, very similar, but not quite the same. Strengths and weaknesses. And that was also only through 1 amp and 1 guitar. I've never done a back-to-back of these before. But what I have coming up, I'll play a couple different styles of music through a looper pedal, which repeats a loop of audio material. And then I'll have the various delays hooked up in the other kind of looper pedal, which is a signal loop, where you have each pedal on its own space and you can A/B between them. And I'll try to set them to some similar settings, dial them in with my ears so that they're as close as can be, and I'll do that in a couple different settings. And we can hear the differences in how they change the sound, how each one responds and does its own thing. And then after that, I'll also do a separate little piece where I try to show the specific differences between them, where, maybe, like I was saying, this one does like the wild tripped out thing in a different way than this. So I'll play some sounds that would show that off, and then, along with the others, do that too. If you have a Ross R80 analog delay that you'd be willing to sell for a fair price or loan to me to include to make it more complete, because we've got like 6 of them or so now, it'd be nice to have that. And then the other one that I'm looking for that I'd really like to include is a Boss DM-1. It's actually the predecessor to this. It's the big brown pedal that looks like the famous Boss chorus pedal that was in the Roland Jazz chorus amps. And they are available, but they're like $1,200 pedals, and I don't really have anything to gain from doing this other than to help other people like hear the differences and to experience it myself. It's, I don't sell any of this stuff. They're not making any more of them. I have nothing to gain from one being better than the other, or, and I don't even have a monetized channel. If you're seeing ads, it's just because YouTube is playing ads. I'm not getting anything from that. So, if somebody has one they'd like to loan me, I'd love to include it, and I'll gladly pay the shipping even both ways, insured, FedEx, whatever. Yeah, it's just like, that's a half the cost of a Space Echo, or even more than that, or another Echoplex. I've got some EP3s. I don't have an EP2. Now, I'm not including mechanical, tape, wire, drum in this. That's a different animal that would take up its own thing entirely. We're just sticking to vintage analog delays for this. So yeah, you got a Ross R80 or a Boss DM-1, Roland DM-1, reach out, please, if you're interested in sharing with this, and I'd love to include it, or buy it, depending what you want to do there, or trade it if you want some, some pickups. Some of these are new old stock wire. We could talk about that. No promises. Alrighty. Good night. See ya.